Where did all the price guides go? Have you guys been wondering? If I feel like they've just disappeared over the last couple of years. We're going to unpack it this morning. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Good morning.
Billy. How are you? Good morning.
Morning, Liz. Good. How are you?
Good. Are you confused, Billy? Like where did all the price guides go? And where did all the sold prices go?
Yeah, sold prices. I feel like they've almost never been publicly, been shared on a consistent basis. It's so ad hoc. For a buyer and a seller researching, it must be a nightmare. Fortunately,
Absolute, absolute
we've got some
nightmare.
tech that works around it for us and helps give that to clients. But at face value, it's hard.
Makes it really, really hard. And I think, this morning, let's unpack where did they all go, because we used to have price guides online. And by that, guys, we mean properties on the market for sale. It's on the big portals, realestate.com and Domain, and it says auction guide 1.2 million, for sale guide 2.5 million. Now a lot of them say contact agent, which I must say makes me just pull my hair out. I can only imagine how hard it must be if you're a buyer. Nothing says
Yeah.
don't contact an agent like contact agent. That's my opinion. Like, it just makes it all the more painful, doesn't it, for a buyer? Says contact agent. You can just imagine they're rolling their eyes into the back of their head that they've got to call or email an agent that sometimes doesn't even get back to them. What do you reckon, Billy? Why do you reckon, as real estate agents, why do you reckon it's got the contact agent or no guide online?
Well, we're going to unpack it, but before we get there, I just want to mention there's two types of price guides. One's a public guide, a public number quoted to the marketplace, really easy to find because it's the number on the advertisement. The other's a search price. It's like a back end price that positions the property in a price order. It's not always public, and that's the behind the scenes number to what contact agent is. So there is always a number on a property. It can always be found in its order from when you're searching realestate.com or Domain, from highest to lowest and vice versa. Just sometimes these guides are not given publicly. And I think the reason for that, well, there's a couple. One, agents think that it's going to add another layer to the campaign of inquiry. So from people inquiring to a price guide, they can then monitor what the conversion rate is to people turning up at open homes. And it sort of sets this bit of a chain reaction, because if you've got people inquiring and turning up, that's good. If you've got people inquiring and not turning up, it might mean the price guide's a little off. That's one reason.
Yeah. And then, the other thing is then you inquire on a property, you're a buyer. So you have actually reached out to the agent, you've inquired on a property, and then the agent's come back and said, here's a long list of comparable sales, and we welcome your feedback. So there's that scenario as well. And then there's the thank you so much, Billy, for inquiring on this property. Here's the price guide, which wasn't online, but the agents actually responded in an email or they've spoken with you over the phone. So there's multiple ways. Now, I just want to say, guys, there are there are reasons why sometimes we just cannot put a price guide online. I do have properties that are currently online that don't have price guides. Sometimes a vendor simply just does not want the guide public. Right, that's reason number one, and we must always go off a vendor's instruction. So that's reason number two. What one rather? Reason number two: sometimes we are actually seriously what needing to understand where the market sees value in a property. Right,
Yeah.
that's reason number two. The market. I think it's important to note here, Billy, that the market has been an absolute roller coaster for the last few years. And even as active agents in the area that we work in on the Northern Beaches, it has been hard at times for certain properties to be able to truly understand what the price guide is on that property. And you don't want to launch with a guide too early because you don't want to come in with a guide that was too high or too low. And so the conversation with the vendor has been, let's collect the feedback from the market and then we can understand where the value is and then we can launch a guide online.
And an
But
owner looks at the agent, as someone responsible to knowing where that guide should sit. The truth is, we're not able to forecast the future and say it's on point, too high or too low, until we've been furnished with buyer feedback. So that's one way
yeah,
to do it.
Absolutely. And look, I get it must be enormously frustrating for a buyer. And often I wonder, like if it's a two-bedroom apartment in DY where there's, 20 or 30 of them that are on the market at any one time, and we have an enormous amount of sales, why there isn't actually a price guide online for these, for these two-bedroom apartments or one-bedroom apartments. It must be enormously
Yeah.
frustrating for a buyer. It really must be. The other thing that must be really frustrating is when a guide has been actually advertised or an agent has given a guide and it's been extraordinarily low, only to find at auction that a property ended up selling for $500,000 or $1 million above reserve, or it sold for $500,000 or $1 million above what that agent was guiding. And there are
Well, let's
very, very strict guidelines around that as well.
let's touch on that, because underquoting is a big topic going around at the moment. Um, but so are buyers feeling like properties are selling for 10% more than the guide, which is the industry norm. So 10% is the range generally from the guide price, and that gives you a wide set of goalposts, but a set of goalposts nonetheless. Some parameters to work
Absolutely. And
with.
look, the reality is, guys, we cannot predict what a property is going to sell for, right? As agents, we give our opinion of value based on our market knowledge, based on recent comparable sales, and based on the market, right? So we're not bank valuers, but we must give our opinion of value based on those factors that I just mentioned. If we've launched a property, let me give you an example. We've launched a two-bedroom apartment, let's call it in DY, right? That's an area that we list and sell in a lot on the Northern Beaches. We've put on a guide of, let's call it $1 million for a property, and we've had lots of buyers coming through. We've had lots of feedback coming through, and the market has said that seems like a low guide. We've had lots of offers at that guide. And the market feedback has been quite unanimous in that they feel that it's about a $1.1 million property, as an example. We must lift that guide accordingly. We cannot leave that guide where it is, right? And then the property goes on and sells for, as an example, $1.3 million. We cannot leave that guide at $1 million. We must
Yep.
lift the guide accordingly, right?
That's
That's how it
underquoting.
works. And I think that's underquoting. And I think that's where buyers get frustrated, Billy. They're like, I don't understand. That agent was guiding $1 million, and at auction on the weekend, it ended up selling for 1.5 or $1.6 million, and the guide remained at $1 million. So, Billy, I just want to give some tips to anyone who's watching. If you're not finding guides online, how can they understand a little bit better about what that guide might be on a property?
The easiest way, least amount of work for you as the buyer. Ask the agent if they can help furnish you with some comparable sales, some recent sales. How did they come to that assessment on price? And even in the first week of a campaign, the same comparisons they've given to the owner, they should be able to share with you as the buyer. Also, we're so lucky in a day and age where there's so much information online. You can sort of upskill yourself and just know where to look. We'll give you the example, but know where to look, and it will help you with your research.
I agree, absolutely. And the comparables, if an agent doesn't have a guide, and guys, I just want to draw down that I realise that this guide conversation does change from state to state. We're referring to what it's like here in New South Wales. I do know in some states you're not allowed to not have a guide. So
Yeah.
we're just talking about here in New South Wales. And it seems to be this widespread phenomenon here where often you'll go online, there are no guides, and then there's no sold prices either, and the frustrations that might cause. But as you said, Billy, contact the agent, ask what the guide is. The comparable sales that the agent is giving should be in the recent market. There's no point for them giving a comparable sale that took place 6 or 8 months ago. The market's been a roller coaster, as I mentioned at the beginning of
Yep.
the show, and they should be directly comparable to that property. Which sometimes, as I said, can be really difficult. Like I've sold some very difficult properties, particularly over the last 6 months, and it has been hard to get comparables. You and I, Billy, just worked on something the other day, a potential listing, and it was really hard to find comparables for that. So ask the agent, how were they able to justify that? But really draw down on the information that the agent will have.
Yeah, yeah, and other simple places to check domain. If you search the property address, you can find previous sales in the building. You can also find what the property sold for last. Work backwards from that. You can also, get a bit of a relationship going with an agent that you like, and send the address to them and see what their thoughts are. Also, in the URL of the property address, realestate.com, it allows you to change the price parameters, and you can play around with those. There's lots of
Yeah,
different
that's
ways
right.
you can it down. Filter it in.
Absolutely.
There's lots of
Yeah.
different ways.
And not only that, but if a guide sounds just extraordinarily low, ask the real estate agent. I actually had someone ask me this question the other day. Just the guide wasn't low, but I did have a buyer ask me the other day. They said, "How did you come to that guide?" And I actually said to him, "That's a really good question to ask." And then I further explained exactly how that was my opinion of value on the property. But understand, guys, we as agents, we are not the market. You buyers are the market. We must take on board that feedback from the market. We cannot control what a property sells for. But, as I said, if you're finding it very frustrating that you cannot find these guides online, contact the agent, have a look at recent comparable properties in the area, do your own research, whack it into ChatGPT, and then just finally, Billy, with the sold prices. Very similar thing. You can reach out to a real estate agent, of course, and ask them, what did the property sell for? Ask them outright. And, or if they cannot, sometimes a vendor just won't allow us to disclose what the sold price is, or a purchaser won't allow us. But directly ask the agent, or what was the price range that it's sold in, so that can help you to be able to do your research. But most of the time, an agent will say it sold for circa $2 million.
Yeah. So, Lisa, if you had to guess where they all go, nail it to one reason.
I would say that, look, I want to be totally transparent here. This market has been all over the place. We're transacting an enormous amount of property in our office. And I must say, there's been times where, like, we cannot believe that property just sold for that price. That's about where we thought that property was going to sell for. Just total transparency with an agent. Contact the real estate agent. We get buyers doing it to us all the time. And if we are not allowed to disclose what a property sold for, then I will always say, I just want to let you know that one sold for circa $3 to $3.2 million. Reach out to the real estate agent. Most agents are going to be super, super helpful.
Yeah, couldn't agree.
I didn't answer your question.
No, it kind of does. Yeah, well, go on.
Where did they go? It's been a roller coaster market. I think that's the bottom line. Even as active real estate agents, sometimes it's been really hard to pinpoint what a property is going to sell for. I feel like the market's been hot for 2 weeks and then cold for 2 weeks. It's just starting to find its feet now. Hopefully, you're going to see more price guides online.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
See ya.